Hello and welcome to our E&I Alumni Talk series. My name is Melina and I'm so glad to be joined by Hinnerk Hansen today. Welcome. He is co-founder and managing director of Impact Hub and has recently been awarded EY Entrepreneur of the Year in the category Social Entrepreneur. And we're so proud to say that you studied right here at E&I. So welcome back. It's great to have you.
Great to be back. Yeah.
Awesome. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and Impact Hub?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I studied here roughly 20 years ago and actually founded Impact Hub together with my two co-founders directly out of studies, pretty much based on the idea to say we see a lot of people that want to make a difference in the world, but don't really know where to start, how to start, whom to start with. So essentially, we were inspired by a model that kind of started globally, but wasn't really present across Europe. And so we decided to build an Impact Hub, which essentially answers this question, where do I go if I want to make a difference, by providing physical space, a vibrant community, and very dedicated content and support programs for social entrepreneurs and those that actually want to support making a difference on key issues in the world.
Awesome. Okay, so you said you found it right out of studies. So
Yeah, I mean, the correct answer is probably I had to interrupt studies to found, and then when kind of take the thesis with me on that founding journey and stay inscribed for a few more semesters, but eventually I both founded and finished studies. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, my next question would have been what were kind of challenges that you faced early on? And I understand that connecting studying and founding in a busy schedule.
Yeah, I think time-wise that was
Yeah.
a challenge. At the same time, it was actually quite supportive. I always remember that when I started at WU, for example, I took one of the first semesters, I took a law class, and that was like foreign language and very difficult. Now, a few years later, I had another law class, which was more about corporate law. So in that sense, after we had founded a limited liability company, that course was very easy. So there were synergies and there were challenges. I think otherwise the challenge for us was, of course, I mean, we were in our mid-20s and we wanted to start a business in a field that didn't fit in a particular drawer. So, I mean, social entrepreneurship wasn't really known as a concept. Community was something people did not really understand. Even basic aspects like co-working were not existing in the field. So it was very easy for them to say, yeah, it's interesting, but not our business. This is interesting, but it's also not fitting our strategy. So eventually, besides family, friends, it took us a while to really get the financing together because eventually we had to rent a 400 square meter loft. We had to do the renovation, and obviously the business starts by being kind of empty. So you also have a bit of runway. So it took us a while, but then eventually Erste Bank essentially took the leap of faith and believed in us. Yeah. So that was for sure a challenge.
Yeah. Okay. It's crazy that it already happened so many years ago because I feel like everything was very different in terms of how sustainability was perceived back then, right? So maybe for you, how do you personally define impact or sustainability in business?
Yeah. I think a lot of times when we also were asked about who are we addressing, because a lot of people may not have qualified as saying, I am a social entrepreneur. But if you say, okay, you are somebody who sees a problem in the world and you're actually eager to solve that problem and you try to find sustainable ways of doing this, so I may call you a social entrepreneur. So in that sense, and I also don't want to get stuck too much by one definition or by one term, but a lot of times we looked at the intentionality of saying, so why am I doing what I'm doing? And then in theory, sometimes you say, okay, strategically, how do I intertwine this intention in my business plan? And how do I hold myself accountable for the results? So essentially, retroactively, you can always say I had some good social and environmental benefit. Question is always, was it founded because of this? Is it strategically enforced by your business direction? And eventually, do you hold yourself accountable by what you're actually achieving on the issues you're trying to solve?
That sounds like a pretty difficult balance, to be honest, keeping the sustainability focus, but you also have to live off of something, right? A business has to make money. So was that ever an issue for you? How did you deal with that?
It actually was one of the reasons we founded, because before founding Impact Hub here in Vienna, we had different conferences and learning formats more for students, where it's around developing ideas in the field of sustainability. But a lot of times, on the one hand, just conferences and convenings is not a very strong business case. It was also not meant to be. And we often say, okay, where do you go on Monday when you're all excited, and how do you sustain that momentum? So essentially, by identifying the opportunity with impact hub of saying there is an aspect of saying you rent a physical space, you renovate, you address several needs. You address the needs of actually, I need inspiring workspace and I'm willing to pay for it. So you're competing with office space. By adding on, okay, you build meaningful connections, you build that community, and over time that becomes a value in itself. And eventually then saying, okay, how do you manage to support entrepreneurs when actually the entrepreneurs aren't necessarily the ones being able to pay for their support? So saying who in the wider ecosystem, whether it's public, private, philanthropic actors, has an interest in them succeeding. So you're again weaving in a model where then it becomes more like a third party that finances a service that you provide to somebody else. So it came very naturally. And obviously it did help that I would say the field from a very niche aspect becomes much more of a norm. And when you talk about positive impact, when you talk about social or environmental effects of your business, it's no longer seen as something that I should not care about if I'm a key corporate or also a public institution.
Awesome. Okay. I understand that you saw this need and this lack of market opportunities in this sector. So maybe looking back, what was one key learning or turning point during your time at E&I that shaped your entrepreneurial future in that sense?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I was lucky to actually have studies that did support that entrepreneurial path. Way back, I started studying international business administration. And then when I saw how limited the choice of majors back then was, I changed to regular or general business administration with a major, amongst others, here in E&I. So just being confronted and themes of saying where it is about venture capital, whether it's about user innovation, whether it's actually really about business plan writing, whether it's about practical courses and examples, and also the peers. I mean, amongst others, I mean, back then one of the teachers was Katharina Klausberger, who became a successful entrepreneur. One of my, let's say, fellow student was Tommy Funke, who became a very successful entrepreneur. And then I had the chance to write a thesis with Peter Vandor and actually explore the field of social entrepreneurship in my thesis. So this laid the foundation to some of our impact measurement work, because the topic was around what are the support needs of social entrepreneurs. So there, I was able to actually have that bulk of my studies be directly linked to my practical founding experience. So I think it was very, very supportive to be part of E&I, and also very beneficiary from both being exposed to the content and the community, and also the alumni network afterwards.
Yeah, our community is something that we're super proud of, and the network that we kind of try to offer to students. So I understand that this has played an influential part in your professional path. Are you still in contact? Do you still meet E&I alumni every now and then?
Yeah. I mean, we always have either some of the new recruits or also our current team members. So there's a good amount of E&I alumni. Also, my co-director currently, he finished the E&I studies. And
Awesome.
like I said, we still have the cooperation with the WU Vienna around our impact measurement. And we just published like a 15-year study around our journey and our results to date. So there's a lot of linkages, and I'm also happy to explore if there are more.
Awesome. Thank you also for taking the time today and giving back to this community. That's amazing. I wanted to ask you about some tips for current students, basically. So what are common mistakes that you see among founders who want to create positive impact, and how can they be avoided?
Well, I think if I shift around more, the advice is to actually not make it too complicated and to stay too abstract for very long. So I think the one aspect is, if you want to try to really understand the issue you're solving and asking yourself if you are the person or the team that is best placed to do so. So I think this kind of problem, people, solution fit, exploring this, and also just going towards events or join organizations and trying to work in the field where you eventually hope to found. I think that's one aspect, to have more the practical versus the theoretical. I've seen others sometimes carried away. They say you spend a lot of time on business plans, or you spend a lot of time on the presentations, or you try to immediately fine tune your fundraising pitch and everything. When I would say rather saying, how do you bootstrap? How do you get started? And how do you generally take a community with you? So a bit of trusting in that path would be my advice, and jump into the cold water as soon as you want to found.
Awesome. I love the term problem, people, solution, because that really adds up the question, why is a person the one to solve this solution? And maybe regarding that, what skills or mindset abilities would you specifically recommend in that area of business?
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I would highly recommend to not try to cover it all in one person. I mean, we were 3 that founded Impact Hub, and we're still 3 as kind of co-owning it, but also we kind of always had shared leadership models, and we're able, I think, to plug in best talent and really co-founders along the way. And also, if I look back at us in the founding trio, we're very different in terms of personality. Of saying if somebody is much more outgoing, or somebody else is more the finance person, somebody is good in representation or in negotiations. So I think there are different elements that I would advise. And also in terms of the founder's journey, I mean, you have your setbacks and you have your low points and you have your struggles, or you're being asked to provide guarantees or share risks. It just can be very lonely if one does it alone, or if one breaks apart across the journey. So I would highly recommend, let's say, shared startups, but also later on shared leadership models that are actually building a good resilience and also support for what often are young founders.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds really good. If you think back to your time as an E&I student, do you have any advice for your younger self that our students might also be able to benefit from?
Advice to myself. I think on the E&I side, it came at the right time, and I was actually open to all the offers that are there beyond the classroom. So I think really engaging in the practical offers, experiences, the community, and also proactively approaching staff on the E&I team with questions, with ideas, I think is something that I would highly recommend, and that has opened some of the doors in the beginning for us. So just not being afraid to ask, because it's a very powerful staff and also, let's say, alumni community in this institute, and not all of this always channels only in the class that you're attending.
Yeah, great advice. I second that. Before we close the interview, I have some rapid fire questions for you that might be interesting. Are you ready for that?
I'll see.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Morning person.
Easy one. Okay. What does it mean to be a founder in one word?
It's an experience.
I love that. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
How did you feel when your name was called at the EY Entrepreneur of the Year award ceremony?
It was a positive surprise, and I was quite grateful for the experience to be there, and also for kind of taking on that spotlight on behalf of the team.
Awesome. What's your favorite spot in Vienna to get inspired?
Favorite spot? I like Kahlenberg. So either hiking up there, or essentially just taking the bike, but just being on Kahlenberg overlooking the city. It's a very inspiring spot in the city.
Beautiful spot indeed. The last book or podcast that really moved you?
Last books was 2. So I think one was the biography of Margaret Friedlander, which was more moving. And the other one is, I think, the biography of Jonathan Ive, so the Apple designer.
Oh,
which was
nice.
Actually very interesting to get some of the principles that underpinned his work.
Awesome. Sounds good. What is one habit that keeps you grounded?
I think I spend a lot of time with our kids, and that's a very lively and not very head-heavy time of play.
Awesome. What's a sustainability myth you'd love to bust?
I think one of them is that sustainability or impact is a cost item. So a lot of times it actually is a pathway towards profitability, and it does not go against bottom line results. And this is not just when you talk about externalities that should be priced in, but it is actually about more competitive advantage that it is giving you today and especially in the future. So I think that is one of the, especially in times of recessions and savings, I think it's one of the myths that innovation or sustainability or social impact is a nice byproduct, which can be moved to the future versus something worth investing now.
Okay, awesome. And last question, what is your proudest Impact Hub moment in one sentence?
I think it's still the opening after 6 months of really hands-on renovation, and the fact that we had a chance of being surprised by Muhammad Yunus, who was like the Nobel Peace Prize laureate at that time. And he literally walked through the door and nobody in the audience knew it. And that was kind of our opening, which still is very proud and very special. And a lot of things came together.
Beautiful.
Long sentence, but
one sentence nevertheless.
And lots of comma.
Hinnerk, thank you so much for sharing your story and insights with us. I think your journey is truly inspiring and it was really wonderful having you here.
Thank you for being here.
Also, that's it for today, guys. Check out Impact Hub for more info and stay tuned for more exciting alumni talks.